Hi everyone, how are you all doing? Welcome to the first webinar in the Wise-Up Wednesday sessions. My name is Freya. I am the General Manager of WorkInProgress, Absa Innovation Lab in Cape Town. For those of you who don't know, WorkInProgress, or WIP for short, is the workspace and the event space, the Woodstock Exchange on the 5th floor. We facilitate collaboration and ideation amongst entrepreneurs, innovators and thought leaders with the objective of co-generating tech-based solutions that solve the problems or improve the way that we do things. If you'd like to become a member or you'd like to have a tour of the space, let us know. You can send us a message on Facebook. I'd love to know where you guys are tuning in from. So in the comments section, give us a wave and tell us where you're from and we'll read out your name. I'm very excited today because I'm going to be talking to Abe Cambridge from the Sun Exchange. He's one of WIP's longest standing members. And Abe, it's lovely to have you with me today. Thanks so much for joining.
Thanks, Freya. It's great to be here. And I do highly recommend people to come and get a tour of WIP. It's an amazing space with lots of great people working from it.
Good. Thank you, Abe. Abe, I'm going to start off by going off a little off-piste, you could say. I'm going to ask you some fun questions just to get us going. They're not serious in any way. We'll get to that in just a moment. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Action or rom-com?
Can you combine them? I think that's a good formula.
Okay.
Actcom.
Actcom. Superman or Batman?
Batman.
Sunset or sunrise?
At certain times of year on the planet, it's the same thing. So, for example, if you're on the North Pole during the summer solstice, then the sunrise and the sunset blurs into one.
Okay.
And so that.
What's the strangest thing you've ever eaten?
Crickets, I think.
Cool.
I don't know. Some of the things that the Western people eat, I'm sure, are very bizarre. Some nice and spicy knickknacks, scampi lemon knickknacks. Pickled eggs. You gotta love pickled egg.
That's a good one. It's a very British thing. What was your favourite book growing up?
The I Hate School Survival Guide.
Is that really a book?
Yeah. I can't find it. I might have imagined it, but I definitely remember reading it and thinking it was hilarious at the time.
Okay, cool. Okay.
And just Jurassic Park.
What's your dream car?
I actually already have had my dream car, which is a complete self-sustaining liveaboard vehicle. So I actually already have realised my dream. And now my dream car is not a dream car; it's a dream air vehicle. I want to have a liveaboard airship.
Okay.
Solar powered liveaboard airship. So I don't want a dream car.
Okay, we'll be hearing more about that a bit later on.
Dream aircraft.
iPhone or Android?
Android.
Facebook or Instagram?
That's such a horrible question. Can I say neither?
Of course you can.
Yeah, neither.
Lastly, and very importantly, Kanye or Jay-Z?
I don't even know. I couldn't tell you anything about either of them. Are they even people?
Okay, cool.
Neither. Yeah, neither. Although if you're talking about Kanye West, then that in the closet, that drama, musical drama thing.
Yes.
You've got to check it out.
Okay.
It is the most bizarre thing you've ever seen.
Okay. Maybe you could send me the link and we can post it on our Facebook page.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for asking those questions or answering those questions. Now for the real questions. You are originally from Cornwall. How on earth did you end up in Cape Town?
Probably the same reason why many Cornishmen ended up in Cape Town, which is that during the demise of one industry, you move to new horizons to seek opportunities in that industry in a place where it's more viable. So back in the olden days, the tin miners of Cornwall vacated Cornwall when the tin mines started closing and came to South Africa to access tin resources. Whereas I worked in the solar industry in Cornwall, where it was one of the sunniest places in Britain. When the solar industry demised in the UK, I went to South Africa to harness and access the solar resource here. So that was really it. I came here for the sun.
And Abe, when was that?
2014, June 2014.
Okay, so you've been here for 6 years now.
Yeah.
When did you become an entrepreneur, or when you became an entrepreneur, is that when Sun Exchange started? And when?
No, I don't think I've ever not been an entrepreneur. I have a tendency to think that entrepreneurs are born not made, because it does require quite a particular mindset. And I mean, my first entrepreneurial endeavors were, I was a paper boy at a very young age, with like 12 years old, delivering newspapers, but I would also import MPEG-2 video CDs from Brunei, where my dad worked, and sell them at school. Because that was back in the day when films came out like a year later in the UK to America. So I had like copies of Star Wars Episode 1 like a year before it came out in cinema. So that was my first entrepreneurial endeavour. Was doing that. So always had a side hustle. You know what I mean?
Okay, cool.
But no, I've always had entrepreneurialism in my
Okay.
veins.
So from a young age.
Yeah.
So where did your passion for sustainability or for solar power, solar energy come from?
I remember when I was about eight years old, I was sat in a geography class, and I had a solar powered calculator, and this is pretty back in I'm 35 now, so we're talking sort of early 90s. I was covering up the solar cell on the calculator and waiting to see how long it took for the screen to go dead, and realised that actually there was electricity coming from this thing. I remember going home and asking my mum, why can't we tie loads of these solar cells together and power out them? And she told me because we couldn't, because it'd be too expensive. And obviously, 20 years later, I am solar powering houses and whole towns with solar cells. But I think actually from my mother, inferred quite a lot of interest in renewable technology. I remember she pointed out to me, we actually stopped and had a look at the Cornwall's first commercial wind farm, which was established in the late early 90s. So she pointed out commercial wind farm. She also used to work for a geothermal power station. I remember she drew a diagram of how a geothermal power station worked. I remember visualizing and understanding how you can actually get electricity from just heat in the earth. So, I think I've always been interested in renewable technology from a very young age, and because I'm a geographer at heart, like I've got a degree in physical geography, a master's degree in the science of climate change. So I've always understood the natural resources and how we interact with them and how we can utilize them and harness them.
Okay, fantastic. Can you tell us more about how you started Sun Exchange? Was it back in the UK or did you start it here?
Sun Exchange is like a combination of my life's experiences from the solar industry. My first business, actual business, I started a business at school manufacturing speaker equipment, but actually my first real business was a solar installation company in Cornwall called the Renewable Energy Cooperative. It's set up as a workers' co-op, and as a cooperative business, we naturally gravitated towards more community-orientated projects and worked out ways how to have cooperatively funded and cooperatively owned solar power plants, which kind of revealed to me about new ways of financing solar projects and new ways of owning solar and enabling those who don't have the money to access the benefits of solar, access to the energy from them without necessarily needing to own the solar power plant. And then got a job as a solar energy consultant when I moved to South Africa, which gave me an understanding of the intricacies of evaluating the economics of a solar project and the legal sides of solar projects, and developed very large-scale solar projects in the UK as well. And so kind of the combination of that experience combined with I started to use cryptocurrency when I moved to South Africa, because it's by far a better remittance system than anything else available in the world. And so by combining that technology with the gap that I'd identified in South Africa, which is lack of solar panels on roofs, can be quite easily solved by a global peer-to-peer solar panel micro-leasing system. So really, I basically kind of put together a lot of the experiences that I had accumulated over time into one cohesive model, which solved a real solution.
And tell me, did they differ much between the UK And South Africa, the way that things were done, was it pretty much
So
the same?
it's only differs in the way that in South Africa you do not need to rely on government subsidy or policy to make a project economically viable because there's so much sun. Whilst in the UK, when I was in the solar industry in the UK in 2013, it heavily relied on subsidies. You needed government subsidy to prop up the industry, but that was a very deliberate mechanism. You need subsidies to initiate a market. You need some kind of catalyst, something to start the industry off, and then over time you can remove the subsidies as and when the economics start matching up. So I believe that unsubsidized solar now does work in the UK, but in South Africa you could start without subsidy from the very beginning, and that's really the key difference. So you can produce twice as much solar power from a solar panel in this country in South Africa than you can in the UK.
That I can believe. What organisations has Sun Exchange brought solar power to today?
So we've brought solar power to a lot of schools. So we're working with the Western Cape Education Department to solar power their schools. They've got a big green initiative. Like, schools are vital to lower their operating costs. Schools should not be spending their valuable financial resources on effectively burning coal, and a cost to both the students' futures and also the cost of sacrificing educational quality, because coal power gets increasingly expensive. So we very much prioritise schools. So we're doing a lot of schools, and to retirement homes, with retirement home chains, veterinary hospitals, special needs hospices, and anything in the built environment where it is an essential service. So supermarkets. In fact, we've seen during the COVID crisis that all of our projects have now seemed to be providing essential services because they've been carrying on doing what they need to do for their communities. So our organisation provide an essential role in our communities.
Fantastic. I'm sure the benefits are obviously huge to all of these communities that you're giving solar panels to. How can people get involved?
It depends on where you're coming from. If you're any individual in the world can buy a solar panel through Sun Exchange and lease it to one of our projects. That's the point of our platform. It's like borderless ability to own solar panels and start producing solar power. Obviously, as you produce solar power from your solar panel, you're selling it to your chosen project through the Sun Exchange platform, and you would earn an income source from sunshine. So that's what anyone can do with a click of a button. If you have a school or a pardon, yeah, even yourself. If you are an owner of a building that uses electricity, you can contact Sun Exchange and we can evaluate it, and we can tell you how much we can save your energy costs by putting solar on there. And if you're a solar installer and wish to join our network of solar installers, you can contact us and we will onboard you, and you can start bringing this projects and start getting work from us to get deployed projects that do come to us. So yeah, many different ways you can get involved.
Are you seeing more? I mean, Cape Town is a prime example. There's a lot of new buildings being built in the city. Are you being approached by those new builds, or could people be doing more?
Definitely being doing more. I think project developers are very stuck in a very old school mindset. They're looking to develop projects at the lowest possible cost. They usually leave solar fitting to the tenant or the buyer once it's built, which is not an effective, efficient way of doing things, because then you've got to retrofit new materials onto a roof that could already have had them installed in the first place. And I guess to a certain extent, new buildings should be built in the better building standards, so they are perfectly optimized from a building energy efficiency point of view for solar. So it's a shame that more people aren't looking at solar from new builds. That said, we do need to know what the energy demand will be from a building when we size a solar power plant quite accurately. So if it's a new build and they build a new apartment block, if that building isn't occupied fully, then we may have oversized a solar plant, and we can't have a less than 100% utilized solar plant to match our economic models. So it's better for us to monitor the energy consumption from a building that's already in its full operation, and then we can size a solar plant to it. So I don't know if that answers your question, but it is a shame that there are so many buildings popping up without solar panels on. Yeah.
Okay. Hopefully after this they'll get in contact. You spoke about your global reach. Where is your community? Is it just in South Africa, or are you finding people are buying from all over?
Well, obviously, most our solar project, all our solar projects are currently in South Africa. So we naturally have got about 40% of our user base are South Africans. Some of which are South Africans overseas because they can now help their homeland remotely via a digital platform. So that's one trend we've seen. But actually, there's a very significant chunk of our user base in Europe and in the Americas, Middle East, Asia, and Australasia. So we've got a very global distribution of our membership, which is now about, I think we've got about 17,500 registered users of the platform. They may not be, not all of them are generating power yet, but they're registered and they are able to start producing power.
That's incredible. Well done. Tell us more, and it's quite a big part of your news, your massive $4 million investment. Tell us how that started. Tell us who Arch are. Tell us everything.
So Arch Emerging Market Partners, they are a renewable energy investment fund, and they're an private equity fund. So they are very, very stringent due diligence processes, and Sun Exchange is a platform that's innovative. So it took a long time for them to be able to understand what we do as a business, because we're not doing things as usual. I mean, usually someone would invest in a renewable energy company because that renewable energy company is going to go and use that money to build a solar plant and then make a yield from it. That's not what the Sun Exchange platform does. We're a digital platform. We don't own any solar panels. We facilitate the ownership of solar panels, so there's no limit to what the return on investment can be from investing in our equity. But with their modelling, couldn't see that because there's no way to evaluate the unknown. If there's no limit to how big this company can be, how do you model that? So it took a long time for us to kind of reach in the middle and determine what the valuation of our company actually is, and put in metrics to allow like up and downside buyback adjustments if necessary, depending on how successful the company is. So it took eventually 9 months to close the deal, which is COVID did hit things a little bit. Obviously delayed things. We were supposed to December, so it should have been about a 6 month. About 5 or 6 month process, but actually ended up being more like 9 months. You just got to persevere. Obviously, by the time you've gone so far down the road with an investment deal like that, you have already built up a relationship with the investor, and you know the deal is going to happen. It's just then just kind of going through the process and going through the actions of completing the deal.
Yeah. And that's what my next question was going to be. How has COVID-19 affected Sun Exchange? What has lockdown meant for you? Obviously, it affected your deal and time it took to complete.
I think the worst part of COVID was me not being able to come in WorkInProgress and hang out with wonderful people there. But from a business perspective, COVID hasn't really changed anything. If not, we've seen a pretty major uptick in the usage of our platform. I think primarily because more people are at home, able to investigate our offering, look into more detail about what we're doing, and obviously seeing the projects that we are hosting are essential services. So supermarkets, for example, the only things in town that were open, and these are things that people can solar power. So it became very evident that the things that we're solar powering are long-term, are resilient to these kind of hits to the economy. Whereas if you're invested in the stock market through COVID, you've not had a good time. Put it that way. So people may have seen their stock portfolios plummet in value, but actually the income they're getting from leasing solar panels has remained. So I think that's also become clear that this is not a platform for speculation. This is real, tangible electricity value production. So I think that's really helped.
I just want to go back to that point that you made. You don't actually own the solar cells. People do. So is that almost like Airbnb doesn't own any accommodation, or Uber doesn't own any of its cars?
Yeah, very much. Yeah, we just provide the platform that's people can host a solar project and then purchase a solar panel to get deployed into that solar project. So we just connect people that want to own solar panels, people that want to use solar panels, people that want to install solar panels. And we make fees in the different directions to make sure that we've got a workable business model.
Fantastic. So Abe, where do you see Sun Exchange in 5 years' time?
Well, had you asked me that 5 years ago, I would never have said that I would be having to walk around with a COVID mask on and
Yeah.
and not being able to leave the country. So I'd be very reluctant to give a probability of what I'll be doing in 5 years now. But 5 years from now is
in an ideal world.
In an ideal world, Sun Exchange will have deployed projects, or our platform users will have deployed solar panels rather into most of the African nations to make sure that we're getting low cost, accessible solar power to commercial industrial operations across the continent, and then also into other emerging markets such as Southeast Asia and Latin America. Our mission is to connect the world to the sun, and we will not rest until we have completed that energy transition.
Okay. I have a question on our Facebook page from Lisa. Lisa is asking, where is your biggest solar installation, and can individuals choose where that panel is, where they purchase it from?
So our biggest solar installation right now is under construction. It's for Ushaka Mall. But all the solar panels on that have already been bought. We do right now have a solar project open for sale, which is a little bit smaller than that, but still pretty huge. It's a 450 kilowatt solar power plant for a winemaker called Boyland Wine Cellar. So when you buy your solar panel in that project, it's going to get installed on the roof of that building. You can't choose the exact location on the roof that's going to go, because that's kind of a bit pointless. The point in the system design is that each solar panel will produce almost exactly the same energy output. So it doesn't really matter where on the system your panel will go. All that matters to you as a solar panel buyer is who uses your solar panel and how much you're going to earn from the electricity you're selling that solar panel user, and to a certain extent what savings or benefits that solar panel user gets. And I guess more qualitatively, you want to know that the organization which you're leasing a solar panel to is doing something good that you actually want to get behind and support. So, for example, we've just solar powered Woodside Special Care Centre, which is a residential home for children with severe physical and mental disabilities who, they literally can't live at home because they've come from very low income backgrounds. And these kind of operation relies solely on government funding. And in this post-COVID world, organisations like that are going to have their funding cut. So it's more important than ever that these organisations get access to lower cost electricity. So it may be up to you as a solar panel buyer to rather buy solar panels on a project like that than a purely commercial project, for example. With the difference being there's a lot more solar panels available for large commercial scale projects because they use more energy. But it's more to the point about just looking qualitatively. It's not just about the money. It's about the impact that you're having when buying a solar panel. What kind of world do you want to see? What kind of businesses do you want to support and see more of, and make sure they are running sustainably?
Yeah, absolutely. Completely agree with that. As I said earlier, you are one of WIP's longest members. I think when I first met you was back in 2016. I think it was just yourself. How big is your team now?
Yeah, it was. I walked into it was then Rise back in March 2016, and it was literally just me. I hadn't even brought in a single advisor. I'd just come out of the Microsoft BizSpark program, and I just had an idea, and I was welcomed into space because it was a good idea, and realised that the other people in the workspace were able to resonate off each other because we're working in different sectors but complementary sectors, and then slowly but surely we built up the team, and now I think we've now got about 20 people full time, but it's growing. I mean, we've been on a hiring spree since the fundraise, because that's the whole point in the capital raise, was to expand the company and grow. So we've now got quite a lot of people, and we're going to be hiring more. But we've probably got about 20 full time.
That's so good to hear.
We do have job vacancies. If you want to visit our website, go to the footer and there's a careers section. You can see what job opportunities.
Yeah, I mean, any job creation I think is fantastic, especially during these times, during our times that we're having at the moment. I just wanted to ask you obviously, apart from our super fast Wi-Fi and our great coffee that we serve, and what else is it about Work in Progress that you've enjoyed working here? Working.
Yeah, the ambience of the space is awesome.
Okay.
Just the amount of natural light that comes into the space, and the view is really beautiful. The events that happen are really spot on. I do miss the PlayStation. I don't know where that went, but there was a PlayStation. I had a Grand Theft Auto file on there. I don't have it anymore.
We can bring the PlayStation. It's fine. It's no problem.
Okay.
Back in 2017, you took part in the Textiles Accelerator. How did that affect?
It was an absolute milestone. It transformed Sun Exchange. It's transformed what was really just a few people working on something in a really misaligned way, with no discipline on how a business should be running to scale, and basically taught us how to do the opposite. We came out of the textiles program with a committed. We had $250,000 investment immediately the year following the program, plus the smaller investment we received in the program, plus a wealth of knowledge and lifelong friends, and also lifelong connection to the textiles community, which we still can access today. I mean, Yossi Hassan, the MD who was running that program, I still contact him, and he's still perfectly happy to give me his time and advice when needed. So, that experience still hasn't finished. It's still with us.
Fantastic. So well worth it.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Sun Exchange, especially because I'm starting a company on my own, I felt it was actually very useful to participate in accelerators and incubators. More than anything, just because you're then working with other companies and you're able to share the journey with each other. But actually, you've really got to choose the ones that are taking equity really, really carefully. We've been through at least one incubator who gave us very little, and offer us nothing since, and they've now got a quite significant chunk of the equity of this business. It's easy for you to get hoodwinked into signing documents on the promise of some amount of money, which may seem like a lot of money at the time, $10,000 or something, but actually in the long run, it's nothing. And actually the cost to your business in the long run is huge. So I'd always recommend getting a lawyer to look over you any contract, even if it costs you a couple of $100 to get a contract reviewed, which again, when you're starting a business, a couple of $100 is a lot of money, but actually do that, because things can come back and bite you. So just make sure you look into those things.
That's sound business advice. Always get legal advice. Good one.
Yes.
We've got another question on Facebook from Jonathan. Where is the income of your investment generated, and in what currency, dollars or pounds, even if the solar panel you bought is deployed in Nigeria?
Well, right now you can't deploy a solar project in Nigeria from Sun Exchange because we're not hosting projects in Nigeria. But when you're purchasing a solar panel through Sun Exchange, you as the buyer of that solar panel are then leasing it to that energy consumer at a predetermined rate in a predetermined currency. So right now, all the projects are being leased in Rand to someone who's paying you in Rand for the usage of that solar panel. Now, through Sun Exchange, you can opt to receive that income in Bitcoin rather than Rand. So we can convert it to Bitcoin if you'd rather wish, and most people do, because it's much faster and lower cost to receive Bitcoin internationally than any other currency. So a lot of people do that because you can work down to such small units of Bitcoin transactions. And obviously, within 10 minutes of receiving your Bitcoin, you can have it converted into whatever national currency you want. So that's what your solar panel is being leased in the currency of the country the solar panel is located in, and then you can receive that in that currency.
Okay, fantastic. Jonathan, I hope that answers your question. I have one from Christoph. Who are your competitors in the world? Who else?
Well, Sun Exchange is a very unique company. No one else is enabling global solar panel micro leasing. You'd have to really compare us to what would our customers do with their money if they weren't buying solar panels. And there's crowdfunding platforms for solar that you can kind of crowd lend and loan money to projects, and even if they're zero interest loans, but they operate on interest rates. And you're not directly owning the solar panel. You don't own the carbon emissions you're producing. So it's also fairly more restrictive. Not everyone can use those platforms, and there's very higher barriers to entry, and also a lower ceiling on how much you can participate.
Mm.
So we're quite unique, and it's very open, very, very low starting point. You can buy a single solar cell for less than $10 and start with $5 producing solar power. And there's no limit to how many solar panels you can own. You can build up a virtual solar power plant through Sun Exchange with no limit to how big that can be. And there's no one else in the world doing anything close that comes close to that.
Fantastic. We have another question from Nick. What would a perfect equity partner be for the Sun Exchange, and what value would be most useful on your board?
Yeah, well, so you've got to choose your equity investors carefully. You've got to make sure that they're bringing something to the table than just money. So I mean, we're fortunate that Arch is involved in the industry, and they know the industry, they know the challenges. They therefore knew the problem we're solving. They understood the problem we're solving, so we didn't need to justify that problem to them. If you speak to an investor that isn't familiar with your industry, you'll spend a lot of time trying to communicate this situation that they won't either comprehend or believe. But we know that there's this funding gap in commercial, industrial scale solar, so Arch knew that as well. So that saved things. I guess make sure that if you want their contributions in long term, that they make sure that's made aware of, like put them on your board if necessary, make sure they're involved on your board. Or if you literally just want the money and have them hands off, then I guess that's also fine, but you may be missing out on some value add. Yeah, I don't know if that's a useful answer. Depends what you want. If you literally just want cash and you don't want any experience whatsoever, then there are probably investors out there for you. But they've got to understand your business. So one of the biggest bits of advice I can give anyone is actually delay fundraising for as long as actually possible. I think a lot of businesses, and Sun Exchange included, I spent a lot of time trying to raise money too early when I should have been focusing all that energy into actually building and selling Sun Exchange, to building our MVP and getting more customers. Because the longer you delay that, the better your pitch is going to be to an investor. And actually, most of the time, you end up wasting an investor's time and your own time pitching your business idea too early. There are many other ways you can get your business moving, whether it be through a crowdfunding platform or through borrowing money on friends and family, or getting a part-time job to make sure your business can survive as long as possible before you start hunting for money. Yeah.
Okay, so that's the second piece of a business advice. After always get legal advice, and then to hold off from investment at the very beginning. I think a lot of SMEs, they get quite starry-eyed, when people are interested, and I think it's important just to kind of take stock and just sit back and just wait just a little bit longer. And
at least, yeah, exactly. At least have a product before you even knock on the door of an investor. Your first customers, have something built, and have that customer base growing. The more you can prove the business model, the more you can prove the growth, the easier the sell is going to be to the investors.
Amazing. Okay, cool. We have, Ben is asking, how do I buy solar cells for the Boland project? Sorry if I'm pronouncing Boland wrong. Boland.
You visit the sun.com, sign up, visit the project, press buy cells, and then enter your credit card details. Basically, it's like off Amazon or any other online marketplace where you buy something exactly the same. It just happens that after you've bought that thing will get installed onto the roof of the project you bought it for, not on your own roof, and the electricity producers will be paid to you into a wallet on the platform.
Easy.
Yeah, it's very easy. Yeah, it's designed to be accessible. We want to connect the world to the sun, and the only way we can do that is to make sure it's completely accessible and intuitive.
Fantastic.
If you can't work out how it works on that platform, then we've failed. And please contact us and let us know how you got stuck. We can fix it.
Okay. I've got a follow-up question from Christoph. Do you think other companies would copy your model? And do you have some protection over your IP?
Yeah, the point with Sun Exchange is that we're a mission-driven organisation. Want to start competing with us and getting more solar, great. Competition is healthy, and if they're getting solar panels installed into Africa, it's basically increasing the supply chains, basically reduces the cost of bringing equipment into the country, and it forces us to improve and us to. But the fact is, we're the first mover in the market. If someone wants to come and copy what we, they're missing the the ingenuity that is required to start a business. So if someone comes and copies what we're doing, we'll always be one step ahead. We can innovate faster. You know, we know that because we started. We innovated before them because we were here first.
Yeah.
And ultimately, they're also getting solar deployed into the continent, which is what we want.
Great stuff. Great stuff.
But we'd much rather they contact us and start collaborating with us rather than trying to go into competition. But collaboration,
I mean,
cooperation is key.
Would you? I suppose you wouldn't be interested in selling franchises. You'd rather them work with you.
Franchise model really works in this instance. You know, we're a platform.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Okay. What does an average day look like for you? Let's turn it onto you now. What, Abe the entrepreneur? How does your day start?
I wake up. I always sleep with my curtains open, so I can wake up with the sun. I sleep overlooking the ocean with the sunrise through my window. And in the summer, it means I get up very early, and in the winter, it means I get up very late. So that's that. And then once I'm up, I would tend to drink some water and do some yoga and some meditation. Then I'll go for either a bike ride and or a swim in the sea. And then I'll have breakfast. And up to this point, I will not have touched my phone. I really don't touch your phone till at least I'm either having breakfast or after breakfast. So at least I've got a few hours to myself with it, just like I'm doing my me time before I start getting engaged with the world and work. And then after breakfast, I'll then get on my way to work and then start having someone's got noise there. You hear noise background?
It's fine.
Someone's decided to move tables when I'm on the webinar. Anyway, carry on. And then so then I'll work, and then basically when I finish work, I feel very satisfied because I've done everything I wanted to achieve, both personally and professionally during the day. So I can literally just spend the evening just reading a book or watching a film or playing video games or sat in the pub guilt-free because I know that I've done self-development and personal development and professional in the day. Okay.
Apart from your phone and computer, what piece of tech can you not live without?
Tech. Without my phone and my computer are my only bits of tech. I know. I'd say I'm gonna say my bicycle. Okay. Love my bike. I love biking, so I'm gonna classify my bike as technology. And yeah, if bikes didn't exist, I think the world would be a very, very sad place.
Okay. We have another Facebook question from Ellen. Any plans to roll the project to countries such as Lesotho, a country completely surrounded by South Africa? It has almost half of the 2 million population without electricity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we looked at the project too, and it's a very optimal place for us. So yeah, we've already looked at it, and ultimately we will be doing projects there. I just can't say when. If you know anyone that's got a farm or needs to get energy in Lesotho, then please contact us.
I see you've got a few friends there. We'll wrap this up shortly. Other than WhatsApp and social media, what apps do you most use?
What apps do I most use? Okay, I try actually not to use apps on my phone because they slow system resources down, and because I'm trying to turn notifications off. So the police car. Trying to get Facebook app to stop notifications is basically impossible. So I've never installed the Facebook app. I think the apps I use the most is the Bitcoin price tracker app, and I use the camera, if that's an app, and also I use Trailforks and Google. Trailforks is a mountain biking app, and also Google Maps. So navigation, and try and keep my communications into other channels.
Okay, great. I've got one last question for you.
Yeah.
From Dean. And Dean is asking, Abe, when are we going to see a solar paneled e-bike?
Solar panel e-bike. You could build one now, but it would be rubbish and it would be incredibly bad to ride. and completely pointless. You'll be better off fitting wheels to a tomato if you want to have an efficient mode of transport. You can, by all means, charge an e-bike from solar power. Do that, but don't try and fit solar panels to an e-bike. That's a bad idea.
Okay, thanks, Dean, for that question. Okay, I'm gonna...
Any other questions?
Yeah, I've just got one last one, and it's
okay.
What advice would you give to start a business? You've already said about the legal advice. What other advice would you give people who are thinking of starting their own thing and really doing?
Don't give up. You know, there's even if something fails, that's not a failure, because you can still learn from that, and then you can try again. If you've got an idea and you believe in it, and see it through. I guess just know when, if you want to fail fast. So if you've got an idea, make it, let it fail, and learn from that and try again.
Awesome.
You know, the worst thing you can do is just like delay, just delay and then never actually do. Okay, here's what I think I was trying to get to. Especially with tech, if you're not embarrassed about your first product release, then you've released it too late. So get it out there and sell, because there's always going to be some customers, like the really early adopter, innovator customers. They love stuff that's half built, because they like buying into platforms and products which aren't finished yet, because they like that and they want to be part of that journey. They want to be able to contribute ideas. So there's always going to be customers for you, even if your product's really early. So just get it out there and never ever try and complete it before you get it out. Be iterative.
Tim Ferriss from 0 to 1. I know it very well. Abe, it's been wonderful to chat to you today. Thank you so much for your time. I know you're super busy. It's been lovely getting to know your business a bit more. If anyone wants to contact Abe, you can message us on the Facebook page or go to the Sun Exchange website itself. And if you have any more questions, just let me know and we can get you in contact with Abe directly. Guys, thanks so much for listening. For our next webinar, we're going to be having Amanda Bester from the digital agency Pragmatica, and I hope to see you there next Wednesday. Abe, thanks so much.